The top story, the AgustaWestland chopper deal was raised by Prime Minister Manmohan Singh with his meeting with his British counterpart David Cameron. He's told Prime Minister Cameron that India has serious concerns over allegations of kickbacks to secure this deal. The UK has assured India of cooperation. It will respond to any request for information, but sources tell CNN IBN that Britain will not entertain any quote-unquote fishing expeditions. The Prime Minister Cameron wants the CBI to approach the UK with evidence and with a letter rogatory.
Ladies and gentlemen, I told him that we have sought an explanation from the company by February 22 to examine if the contractual provisions on unethical practices and the Integrity Pact have been violated. I have sought full assistance from the UK in this case. Prime Minister David Cameron has assured me of the cooperation of his government in the investigation.
Respond to any request for information. I'm glad that the Italian authorities are looking into this issue in detail, as Finmeccanica is an Italian company, the parent company of AgustaWestland. But let me make absolutely clear that in Britain we have introduced anti-bribery legislation that is probably the strongest anywhere in the world, and we will root out any problems of bribery or corruption wherever they appear and whenever they appear.
Joining us, our Chief Diplomatic Correspondent Parul for more on this. Parul, an assurance from the British Prime Minister, but India has to approach Britain with something concrete. As you're saying, sources are telling you, a fishing expedition will not be permitted.
That's right. In November, the Indian request for information from the British government was fobbed off. Now we're getting to hear from Prime Minister Cameron that his government and his investigative agencies will in fact fully cooperate with the CBI in its ongoing investigation. Interestingly, Cameron also pointing out that Finmeccanica was in fact an Italian company, but yet giving that assurance to the Prime Minister when Manmohan Singh, in his words, expressed serious concerns about the allegations of payoffs. Yes, what we're picking up from our sources is the CBI will not get anywhere if it goes off on a fishing expedition. We're being told that the British expect the agency to come up with concrete evidence if the London police or any other investigative agency in the UK, like the Serious Frauds Office, is expected to follow up on leads provided by the CBI. So they have to come up with something concrete. Also, the CBI is expected to follow due process, i.e. it must come armed with a letter rogatory, i.e. directions from the court here in India. Otherwise, a non-serious exercise will not be entertained by the British government. At the moment, there's no indication whether the Serious Frauds Office, which the British government sources point out is independent of the executive, will also order an inquiry into AgustaWestland, which is of course an Anglo-Italian company. So there's still some element of suspense on just how far the British are going to go in their own territory, on their own domain. Now, of course, the ball is in the CBI's court. We know that the CBI is yet to even register an FIR or a preliminary inquiry. These are just initial stages of its investigation, Ananya. All eyes will be on how seriously the CBI now takes up this matter with both the Italian authorities as well as the British authorities.
You're mentioning the Italian authorities. The CBI team headed to Italy. Parul, a lot of what India will have to give to Britain, if it wants Britain to follow up, will depend on the information and the probe report that's being shared by, or whether or not it's being shared by Italy with India.
Absolutely right, and in fact that is the main hurdle right now. The Italians, both their court as well as those who are investigating this bribery deal, are suggesting that India is not a party to this case, which is currently in court. Court documents can be made available to the accused and the prosecution, but not to outsiders. India at the moment is an outsider. That's why it's important to note that the Indian government is now hiring a lawyer in Milan who will now examine legal options before the Indian government. How can it go about becoming a party to this entire exercise, which is currently in court? Also, the Italian investigation is ongoing. In the past, over the last 1 year, the Italians have continued to tell India that their investigation is still ongoing. Therefore, in the interest of secrecy and in the interest of a fair probe, they cannot share any information with India. So yes, the biggest hurdle right now before the Indian investigative agencies and indeed the government is how do they get the Italians to share critical information which can then be used in the CBI's own probe and also forwarded to the British investigation investigators who can perhaps then follow up on leads. For instance, Christian Michel is a UK-based agent. He's the man who's alleged to have had a role in making those payoffs to certain people. Since he's in the UK, it's the UK authorities that should be ideally taking the lead on this, but at the moment they also can't move forward because they haven't heard officially either from the Italians or from the Indians.